Okay, got it all nice and set up. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. Little ones, alhamdulillah, have gone to bed, and I have enough energy left from the day to do a live stream and philosophize with you about the emotion envy. And it's also a beautiful view, nice sunset going down. So, envy is sort of defined as a feeling of discontent or resentful longing by the conditions of someone else. Assalamu alaikum, girlfriend, good to see you. And envy is sort of a longing for someone else's conditions. Salam, Zesta. And the difference between envy and jealousy, they say, Salam, Krish, is that jealousy is more of an unpleasant suspicion or apprehensiveness due to rivalry. Yet when I think of envy and jealousy, I almost see them as synonymous, but when I look up the distinction, I realize there's definitely some nuances and overlap between the two. So envy, this is one that is so surprising to me because I didn't have much envy growing up. I did feel weird when I would see other people with a healthy mom and a healthy dad, and I would feel a little bit weird that, hey, you know, they have a mom and a dad and I don't. And as I grew older and just became more stoic and introspective, I started to just become more independent and not really think about a mom and a dad. And then I tried to run away from home when I was real young, and then I ran away eventually. So I ran away twice, technically. And when I went to live with my mom, we lived in Philadelphia, lived in squalor, wasn't too good. And so I worked, and I didn't really have envy for people, really, because we all were in the same boat. Most of the students who went to school with me, they really struggled, and it was intense for all of us. We feel happy when we watch your videos and hear your voice. May God reward you, our sister. Thanks, that's very kind. May I'll reward you. And so, when I came to California, and I was working in this restaurant, I didn't really like my job. And one day, I remember there was this Asian woman, and she looked wonderful. She was dressed really classy, and she was relaxing, pregnant, also tending to her small child. And I remember getting a very distinct feeling of envy, because I looked at her and saw how at peace she was, and I was miserable at my job, and I wanted to be home with my child. And I thought, why do I have to work? I want to be with my child. But now I realize I could have just told my man that I don't want to work anymore. But I had a very feministic mindset where I thought, well, I have to go get this money. I didn't think of I need to be feminine and let a man provide for me, because I had a job when I was super young. My grandpa taught me to really work. My grandpa would drive me to my jobs. I had a very worker bee mentality. My grandpa wanted me to know how to survive, essentially. He never talked to me about marriage. My grandpa never talked to me about marriage. Nobody did. There wasn't that mentality. Even though my grandpa was a provider for my grandma never had a job. She had her first child when she was 14. So, yeah, and Chris says others can be envy of you for certain things. That is true, very true. And so, I found it very unique now that I'm older about what did I get envious of someone for that had time to spend with their children. And then I realize now, well, I could have had that. Envy did nothing because it kind of clouded my judgment. I could have got that. I just had to see how I could get it. I don't get envy now. When I do get envy, I try to talk to myself. And I say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala withholds from whom He wills, and He bestows bounty on whom He wills. And I cannot argue with that. And I had extreme jealousy slash envy between me and my sister, one of my sisters, because the way in which my grandma would treat her. My grandma showed favoritism openly. And that is one reason why I connect very heavily with Yusuf's, aka Joseph's brother, Benjamin. They say it was Benjamin, I believe. Well, either way, with the brothers who got jealous because of how there was favoritism upon Yusuf. But Yusuf's not his fault, but the brothers' envy, the jealousy that they felt towards their brother. Because I'm not saying Jacob was like my grandma like him. What I'm saying is sibling rivalship developed, right? And so I still struggle with that. But then I look at how many of the grandchildren and great-grandchildren that my grandma ignores, and I think, if they don't care, why should I? If she picked that person to be her favorite, so be it. There's nothing you can do. You can't, and I talk to myself a lot about it. I cannot make her love me. I cannot make her see me, right? Ridwan says, Assalamu alaikum, one of the greatest favors of Allah Subhanahu on me is that I almost feel no jealousy or envy for anyone. I hate that emotion so much that I avoid it. It's interesting, like, you have to make a conscious decision to avoid it. But it's so weird when it arises in you and you don't expect it. Because if you want to make it go away, you actually have to really focus on it. And if you haven't had to focus on it, then I'd say you're blessed by Allah, exactly. Because people can get envious and give the extreme evil eye towards something. And it might be over things you don't even recognize, right? Chris says, oh yeah, I hate the preference mentality my parents have. Oh, see, you suffer with it as well. Yeah, and I really find it fascinating how we humans have the capacity for that emotion. And it can make some people try to go further on in life. Like, oh, this person has something I don't have. I'm going to try to work hard and get up to their level. It can aid competition. But if it gets out of control, it can be detrimental. Gofrain says, maybe jealousy holds a wanting to be better than the other to feel better, but envy is wanting to have the same thing as the other without necessarily wanting others to be behind us. Very interesting point there. I like how you phrased that. Yeah, because Ridwan says, envy and jealousy are the major cause of gossip and backbiting. That is very true. Yeah, you know what's interesting? I would get told I was going to get a promotion when I was in the restaurant industry. And then someone would take it from me. And I remember feeling such, it was envy, but it was also just like, why did they get it when I worked harder and it was promised to me, right? You get this sort of like, me. And then I would hate that person. And then I had to work on myself and be like, I don't want to be mad at this person. They're my friend, but they got it from me. I was supposed to get it. I've been here longer. Like, you know how you get in your own head? And you're like, I worked harder. I don't miss days. I put the extra effort in. I know the menu. You go through all the reasons why you should have got the promotion. And it's worse when the managers are like, oh, you, and you. We're going to see which one of you is going to qualify for the promotion. So they get you all in your head. They get you pumped up with, oh, could it be me? Could it be them? And it really creates a weird atmosphere. But looking back, I can now feel like it's a good thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not let me get that promotion, because I would have been in the zone and maybe I wouldn't be a stay-at-home mom, and maybe I would not care as much about my prayers because I'd be making money. So there's a Or maybe I would have never had a second child because I would be too busy making money being in the position they were going to put me in. Right? So it's fascinating when you think about it. Chris says because they graduated but I didn't, I'm still in college. Chris says, I'll be honest, at times I'm envious of my friends. The graduation thing is interesting that you mentioned because in my group of friends in the Honor Society, there was heavy competition. Heavy competition with who is gonna get accepted first to the university, who's gonna get to the better schools. And there was a lot of wonderful competition, but it did breed a lot of envy. So I understand what you mean. Ridwan says, even though envy hurts the envied a great deal, it does destroy the envier a lot more in the long run. That is so true. I totally agree. I think that's very important for us to remember, right? Sumaya says, I've only ever felt envy after learning of a third co-wife coming into the picture. Now I appreciate my first co-wives. I just hope I can try and resolve any issues relating to this so we can flourish. Oh, you're in a polygamous marriage? Oh, that's interesting. Wow, yeah. That's fascinating. So you definitely are feeling a very unique expression of it, right? Of that particular emotion. It is quite intriguing how envy and jealousy, how they express in the job market, in family, in marriage, in all little atmospheres. It's like that energy, that mindset can arrive in people and express itself in different ways. And that is something that is truly unique. Zesta says, jealousy is just natural within the context of advancing in life, within society, but mashallah, envy is an absolute test from Allah, and it's one of the 10 commandments to Nabi Musa to not covet. Gofrain says, fact is, you wanted to enjoy the same comfort like the Asian lady had with her child, envy. That would not involve wanting her to be behind you or want evil for her, which is actually jealousy. Good point. You're right, because jealousy kind of does have that bit of a, you want to destroy the other person, whereas envy can be like that longing of, like, that you want what they have, but you don't want them not to have it, just that you want it too. There's not the destruction element there. Yeah, that is true. Very true. And see, I think that's one blessing that I have, is that since I can control envy in me for materialism, I feel more free. Because there are some people who, they want the next Apple Watch, they want the next brand of sneakers, they want that bottle of perfume, but I don't really like that. I don't really desire that. So I feel like when you learn how to master yourself in a way of certain categories where envy can pop up, it helps to not have envy towards materialism and stuff, because it just makes you less content, right? Chris says, sadly, even at times your friends want to be envious of you. Even society can force that. That's true. It's scary when your friends become envious. Very scary. Like if a man is envious of a guy's good wife and then he tries to covet her, I think that's why spiritual people really worry about a man coveting a woman's wife. And I think that's one reason why Islamic modesty is so important. Because it is wife swapping, swinger culture is quite disgusting in America, where men actually fantasize about sharing their wives, and it actually puts the wife in a lot of danger because her man is supposed to protect her, right? So it's very intriguing. It's scary, very scary. And there's some women who want to destroy the marriage of their friend, and you have to watch out for that as well as a woman. It's sad, truly quite sad. I've even heard of some cases where, for example, I had a very good friend in junior high. She got married young. Her family was Mormon. She was Latina. Her mom would flirt with her fiance, and it was so weird for her. She would cry and say like her mom is flirting with her boyfriend that she was gonna marry, like her fiance. And later they had 3 kids together, but they got a divorce later in life. I haven't talked to her in maybe 9 years. But when I saw that, I felt so bad for her because her own mom, did that. Krish, one place where envious is non-existent in society is Saudi Arabia, where I want to live. Saudi Arabia is a very modest and honest place. But they sure probably cover other things, right? I'm sure women find something to covet in Saudi Arabia, whether it's where they live. I think women would covet like how big is the place where you live, or what kind of car does your husband have, how how expensive is your purse. Women find things to get covetous about. Hope says, why not turn envy to encouragement? You totally can. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Yeah, for sure. Chris says, here in the USA, there is so much envy because of lust. Mm-hmm. Very true. Sumaya says, yes, alhamdulillah, in a poly marriage, and it's challenging, but do not regret it one bit, as I've been looked after in all facets of life. It's a constant switch between jealousy, envy, and gratitude. I bet. You should write a book, man. We need more sisters like writing books on polygamy. We need more women talking about it healthy in podcasts. All we ever hear about polygamy is just the lust of men. We don't ever hear from the wives and their tips and advice. And that really irritates me. Because it's like it erases the woman's perspective. I don't get it. I would love to hear what women have to say about that, but we never get to hear it. You know? Sumaya says, yes, I agree. It's more than lust. We need wife's perspective. Yeah, I mean, I've been waiting for it. There was a sister I did a podcast with 2 years ago, I think it's been. She was a second wife. I don't know if she still watches the channel, but she should do more episodes on it. She says she gets a lot of hate. I remember she was saying that there were sisters who would always attack her for being polygamous and having a podcast about it. It was quite sad. Chris says, the lack of modesty here in USA is so bad. It's getting worse and worse every day. Yeah, it's scary. Sometimes I'm shocked about what people wear in public. Because you wonder how they don't feel shy, and they make a lot of excuses. But it just kind of shows you how addicted they are to the male gaze. It's bizarre. I've broken free from that. I don't desire it anymore, and it's so freeing. But I think some of those women, they're going to get burnt out maybe later. But who knows? Hopefully, they can level up and not be so dependent upon the visual validation of those who watch them. The Cam Kilo says, we live in a heavily sexual environment. Crazy. Yeah, and I think that's meant to keep us kind of base, kind of lower level, sort of like a frequency where people are too busy being triggered by the eyes that their mind almost stops functioning. I don't know how some male teachers concentrate. I don't know how it's possible for some of them. It's so distracting. And sometimes it's very uncomfortable to talk to somebody who is just all out and about, and you're like, why? But some girls, they're deeply insecure and they have to show their bodies they feel in order to get attention because they don't have that special someone who fulfills their desires. And sometimes they have it, but they are, what is the word they use? Polyamorous? They're women who have multiple men, so they're always trying to get more men. So for them, showing their bodies is like fishing. They want to show their bodies so they can get more men interested in them and get more money from them. You know? It's quite crazy. Let's see. The way girls are dressed, I be at the gym and it's insane. Oh yeah. The gym is really intense. Worse now because the TikTok generation. They don't wear clothes to actually sweat. They work out in clothes to attract men and get some type of sugar daddy situation. That's what a lot of the girls want. Girlfriend says, by the way, I have a great book request for you whenever you have time. It brings together psychology and neurology to understand human emotions. It's called How Emotions Are Made. Ooh, sounds juicy. Hey, Shug, good to see you. Shug, assalamu alaikum, man. So great. Oops. So great to have caught another live. So glad when you have time for us. Thanks for sharing. Glad you're here. I'm really glad you're here, brother. You're an OG on the channel. Ridwan says the most dangerous thing about envy and jealousy is the evil eye. The evil eye is real and affects people in real time. The last verse of Suratul Falaq, protection from the enviers when they envy. Yes. And see, it's interesting how some women feel they get energy from envy. They think they want to have women envy them, but they don't look at the downside of it. I don't want to be envied. I feel sad if someone says, I envy you for X, Y, and Z, and it's like, why? I'm a woman who reads books, cooks, and plays with parrots, and lives a very simple hermitage life. You shouldn't envy anything about me, because you should be passing me. Chase your path, go on your journey. I'm not trying to compete with you. I'm provided for, and I have what I need, and I don't want more. I mean, a nice farm would be nice, but that'll probably come later in life, inshallah. But don't envy me. I don't want people to envy me, you know? Cam says, I've noticed that young girls are becoming victims to this hypersexual environment. Oh, yeah. That's one of the saddest parts, because they're a lot of the young girls are experiencing this sort of body dysmorphia. This extreme body checking and worrying about themselves, to where they develop eating disorders, social anxiety, and they don't like the reflection they see in the mirror, and they're highly addicted to makeup, and they need the boys to not make fun of them, and then they become hypercritical of themselves when boys are just trolling them, having a good old time. It's quite sad. Chris says, it's like they want you to look at them. Oh, they do. They do. Most definitely. They get a sort of a kick out of seeing all the guys in the gym look at them. It's a rush. It's an energy vampirism. I remember, because in my Jahiliyyah, when I wasn't a Muslim, there was times where I would wear sports bras and small shorts to the gym. I did it a couple times. And I didn't, the reason why I stopped was because it would get too much sweat on the bench. It's like, this is not clean. I'm letting my skin touch the bench even though I'm spraying it down with a towel. This is gross. I don't like this. It's like, I can't move properly, right? And so I just started wearing loose t-shirts. And now I have my own gym at home. It's small, but I like working out at home, and Islam makes it so we have to be segregated. So, alhamdulillah, I don't have to be in a public gym anymore. The Cam says, like, I'm a handsome guy, alhamdulillah, I see how they do extra things to look at them. Well, yeah, they will bend over, grab the weights. They will do the arm one. I forgot the name for it. It's like butterfly, whatever. In front of the mirror while you're doing bicep curls, right? So, it's very strategic. You know, or a woman will go on the squat rack, and where you have a visual of her, but also the people who lay out the gym, they purposely are gonna lay it out to where you'll have a nice visual of the women, you know? It's quite intentional, right? Girlfriend says, the belief there is a provider with endless giving keeps you content, satisfied inside. So much away from envy causes the one who gives others is the same one God of yours. Simply true. Yeah, if we realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants each person their own unique bounty, we don't become envious. Because I don't know if you're familiar, but some people use this word privilege, right? And they'll say like, oh, you have privilege. But they say it in a way where they almost want you to hate your blessings. And to me, that means you're denying one of the favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you. And you don't have gratitude and appreciation if you're letting somebody shame you for something very simple that other people are resentful for and envious of. So we always have to make sure that we're happy with what we have, that we don't get over envious and jealous of others, and we count our blessings. I used to do back in the day Thankful Friday. And when I did Thankful Friday videos, I would always think of all the blessings I had and all the wonderful things in my life. Because if I saw someone who had more of something that I wanted, I wouldn't feel as envious. And so what's interesting is people would think, oh, you probably get jealous over this or that. And in reality, I'll think to myself, that person has a nice chicken coop. That person has a koi fish pond. That person has an African gray parrot. Like, I'll think of little things and be like, oh, it'd be nice to have that, but how much work would that be? You see what I'm saying? And then that helps me get down to earth so that I can manage the way I feel. And so envy is an emotion that I also think can be used in war, right? If you think about envy in war, sometimes I think that there are soldiers who see a conquering nation and they're like, we want to have that hegemonic power. Let's go ride on them. I also think about that, how the military-industrial complex can use war. The camp says, Allah gives out of wisdom and not out of a favor. Shug says, I remember hunting in SC, Idaho, and bringing down a deer really teaches you gratefulness. Had we not caught it, we would not have eaten that week. Oh, that's so awesome that you were able to get some nice venison. I love venison. It's so good. It's so delicious. I really like it. The camp says, privilege is a test from Allah. Chris says, I'm not Muslim, but I have so much respect for it. That's cool. Well, I'm glad you're here hanging out with us. And if you got any questions about Islam or something, feel free to comment. And there's a lot of great Muslims in the chat on this YouTube channel. I think I have a very good curated community of Muslims who are from all over the world. And so there's always somebody you can ask to help you get on your pathway of asking questions and stuff. It's really beneficial. Sumaya says, I'll be happy to have a discourse on my experience of jealousy and envy in polygamous marriage. We should really have a support group. Jealousy and envy is debilitating, stunts personal growth. I like how you use the word debilitating, because envy does have that capacity, doesn't it? To kind of debilitate us. And I feel like it can stunt us to where we don't see what's happening. And when envy passes, we kind of feel like we're going out of the clouds and we're back down to reality, right? But when envy visits and it wiggles in you and it's taken over your thoughts, it's very difficult sometimes to get it out of your head, that's for sure. Shug says, yeah, you're there and you hear stuff making noises, clicking, chirping, makes you see how small you are in the big scheme of things. Yeah, hunting is beautiful. It's so sad how the vegan liberals demonize it. Chris says, hope the only thing holding me back is my parents. And also I would want to pray for some non-Muslims when I become Muslim. Oh, I see. I believe that there's a discussion about how you can't pray for non-Muslims, but you can pray that Allah guides them to Islam. That's what I do. I remember when Betty White died, the actress, I was informed that you cannot pray for non-Muslims, but that's above my level of understanding, so you gotta go to the fiqh people and see what they say. Because I know if they didn't die upon Tawheed, it's a different punishment for them, I believe. The Cam says, and Allah doesn't withhold out of stinginess, He withholds out of wisdom. Very good point. Very good point. Shug says, I told a vegan once, don't worry. In a famine, I'll eat you first. Yeah. Somebody says, "Thank you for your insights, Milan." Thank you, sister. We need more sisters like you. Even if you create a blog and you want to stay anonymous, because I know you have to have a. Some husbands don't let their wives have social media, so maybe you can just do a blog. You know, put your little icon, have a pen name. You know, a pen name that's not like your real name, but a pen name, and write some things for the Ummah because I need to hear the women's perspective, but I don't get it. I only get, oh, men have desires, therefore I need another wife. But I don't hear how to be a good father, how to help the wives. I don't hear any of that. It's just men arguing about why they have the right, not really what they have to do more than that. So, right? And what's really unique about envy is that it touches many of us. It touches all statuses as well. Some of us might think, well, so and so has money, so they might not feel envy. But in fact, they do. And it's weird because sometimes we think if someone has money, they'll never feel envy. How could they? They have everything, we think. But they do. It's quite strange. It's so bizarre. Sometimes you want to think about if you had Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk in the same room. You know, is one going to be envious over who has, I don't know, the best looking upholstery in their car? I don't know. You just wonder, what do these elites sit around worrying about? The Cam says, the reason why we don't pray for non-Muslims is because we don't, their relationship with Allah, remember they belong to Allah and Allah is just. Chris says, Salam Abu Bakr Noor. Shug says, I mean, just imagine, I'm out there in the woods with a rifle in my hands, thinking whatever is making that snorting, grunting noise sound bigger than me. Yeah, black bear comes out the corner, mountain lion, a cougar, a crazy raccoon with babies, right? Shug says, an envy comes in forms, guys. Might usually resort to violence, but ladies break you down with tongue and things. Don't know what's worse. Hey, that's a good point. Some men will straight up rob you because they like your watch. They'll pistol whip you and carjack you, take your stuff, right? The envy can prompt them to do crime. Whereas with women, they can, like you said, they can tear you down psychologically. Envious of your boob size, they'll make fun of the size of your lips, right? They like think your hair looks too pretty, they're gonna say your breast stinks. They're gonna find ways to henpeck you to the point where you don't even feel like your powerful self, like you're grounded, like you're rooted. And so you have to watch out for envy. Oh, and you know what? If you think about it, if you're like a ruler, you gotta watch out even more so for those envious rivals. Those envious rivals who are gonna give you bad advice on purpose just to destroy you. The evil advisor who's promoted by envy is also dangerous. And if you think about how many rulers were envious of other rulers and wanted to go to war with them because they felt this sort of envy at someone's empire and then wanted to take it over. It really makes you think about when we had more tribes in society and how tribal warfare was probably pushed in certain circumstances by envy. Think of maybe how envy shaped the landscape we live in, because it's something that gets inside the person and they can make certain decisions based on envy, which then shapes things around them. Quite telling, isn't it? Think of the times when you had the grandest buildings. Like, what was that? And that was like a flex on other people. Look what our infrastructure has. Look what yours is lacking. Oh, look what we have been able to do with our architects, you haven't. And then people being envious of that and wanting to see it all fall down. I often wonder about that now. When you're at the top of the pyramid, you forget to look down at the base who maybe has those envious eyes, isn't it? When you are second to the top of the pyramid, you want to go up the next step always because you're so close to it. But those on the bottom can only look up. And those on the bottom, sometimes they forget they're the base and they help move the society as well, but all they do is stare at the top of the pyramid, longing and longing and longing. And then when the envious one tries to climb up that pyramid with a sick heart, they're gonna push you off the top of the pyramid and you'll come crashing down. And they'll be the new crowned king, crowned queen, who usurped that throne, usurped that position. It's quite telling. Quite telling. My mom would tell me stories about how even certain strippers would get jealous of each other. Certain strippers would get mad if they saw their customers spending more at your pole than theirs. And that there was a lot of politics because you're dealing with very beautiful women who are highly sexual. And my mom worked in some of the very fancy stripper places where you had to have a lot of money to be there. And that some women, they would get extremely envious if you had better outfits, you got the better looking customers, the gentlemen, they would call them, would spend more on you. That was also strange because you're like, wow, you would think that they wouldn't care because they're so secure in their nudity. Why would they feel jealous of somebody? But then they would still find something to be jealous of in money coming into the frame. Money really carries that energy of envy. And we have to be mindful of us not worshiping money. That's another reason why I don't really fall for brands very much. Because the brand signals to you, I have more money, right? Today I had a very interesting conversation with my eldest daughter about Apple Watches. And she was asking me, why does everybody have an Apple Watch? And I kind of talked to her about a regular watch will tell the time just as fine. And she said, well, you can call people from it, and you can do this, and you can do that. And I said, yeah, just have a cell phone. Tells you the time. You can call people from your cell phone. But if you got a cell phone, and then you got an Apple Watch, and then you got all these fancy tech toys, these companies are just milking you for money. Now, if you have it and you want to spend it, that's up to you. But don't forget to give to charity, and don't forget to spend on organic food and things that are actually going to really benefit you. It's quite fascinating when you think about it, because we often can forget that. We can forget how marketing companies can really push people to have a deep sense of envy, really manipulate us against each other, and get us to go into massive amounts of credit card debt so that we can have envy. Think further about just the college campuses. How some of the college campuses, there's a bit of competition, but different college campuses are rated differently. Everybody wants to go to the best ones. And once you get in, it's like a flex you get to do on other people. And if you get to flex on other people due to what college you got into, it can also breed envy. Marketing of envy, right? And even think about when parents, they're like, hey, my child goes to so-and-so university. They kind of want to make envy in others. Some people want to participate in the facilitation of envy. Shug says, and they use buzzwords like, while supplies last, they're going fast, out now. Yeah, my grandma used to fall for things like that. Limited edition, collector's edition. My grandma fell for that stuff a lot when growing up. She was that type. It's that cable news, you know, old folks, timey type of marketing that gets people to go into their wallet. It's quite interesting how the companies will make you feel lucky for purchasing their product, and then you feel like you got that deal, right? But oh, and another unique example of envy that I got to see when I was really young. Our neighbors expires soon, Shug. Yeah, exactly, expires soon. My my grandma used to stare at our neighbor's Corvette. We were poor, we didn't have much. But the neighbor wife got a Corvette. And I didn't care about cars. I knew nothing about cars, but my grandpa loves cars, especially cars from the 1950s. He knows the names of all kinds of cars. And I remember my grandma just kind of staring at their Corvette, and you could just feel the envy, and then she'd get depressed because she couldn't have that car. It was just quite sad. Quite sad. Sometimes she would cry because my grandpa wouldn't have money for the bills. And then I'd go in my room as a kid and feel so frustrated that I couldn't get any money to help pay the bills. And I know that my grandma in her heart had envy for that kind of stuff. And it's really sad. Issa says, I've noticed parents flex about where their kids go to university more than the kids themselves. Ah, yeah. That's so true. That's very true. It's bragging rights. Bragging rights. Gofrain says, I think one essential key is knowing what you need and place your priorities. Putting your state in the comparison with others is the starting point of spending more for what you don't need, in fact. Good point. Good point. Chris says, oh yeah, they just want their kids to take these advanced classes and that's it. Yeah, the honorary classes and the very difficult courses, right? The grading system. Gofrain says, enjoy the available is the huge blessing, contentment. Yes, enjoying what's available and what you have is definitely a blessing. Definitely breeds content. Shuk says, my son is a doctor. Yeah, but does he even want to be? Yeah, it's scary how some people get pushed into being doctors. And then those doctors are like just really resentful with their patients and they're just drowning in debt. It's pretty scary because doctors have a lot of power and they're highly trusted because of their lab coat. And some of them, they're just pill pushers and they're burnt out and they want to impress their parents. Yeah, that's why I always, when people say I'm a doctor or I'm an engineer, you always wonder if they chose it, right? Chris says being a doctor is hard. Yeah, I wouldn't want it. Way too much medical school. Shuk says the guy that hates being a doctor is preparing to remove my appendix. No thanks. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Sumaya says, I've just literally watched the sunrise whilst listening to you, sis. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. The sun is setting here. I can see it. I'm in a position where I can see it. It's at that blue greenish point now. It's not fully black yet, but the rays of the sun have diminished. So that's cool. We're like at the opposite sides. Sun's coming up over where you are. Sun's coming down where I am. Siddharth says, it's not just too much med school, but you have to spend 80 hours in a hospital. Yeah, the hospital feels so sad to me. I can't be in hospitals very long. I'm afraid of all the germs. I'm afraid. It's all those equipments, all those cords. It's pretty scary. Hope says it's midnight here. Girlfriend says the sun is rising here. MashaAllah, look at that. We got the different time zones in the house. You know what's interesting is that when you're listening to this, the time of the day affects you how like you feel in the moment you're listening to. Take care, Samaya. Issa says, Arab Americans, my son is a doctor. Reality, your son was a doctor in the Middle East. Here he's a pharmaceutical assistant. That's funny. Oh, that's funny. Hope says, Ohio here. Oh, nice. Ohio in the house. Shuk says, Milan, your lab coat wearing freaks, get away from me. Keep your cooties. Me takes the stethoscope. Sorry, listening to my own heartbeat. Jackal Radio, top of the morning. Top of the morning, got that Shamrock in the house. Chris says, honestly, that's why I fear death. What's going to happen? I really want to be guided. You mean like guided to Islam, or you mean like guided in preparing for death? Like your funeral? What do you mean? Because you can ponder about the next realm. You know, it's very healthy to do, actually. You know, that's why envy, if you think about it, you can't take envy with you to the grave. Oh, guided to Islam? What YouTubers do you follow? I mean, not saying that you have to follow people on YouTube, but they can help. I like Scarly Subtitles channel. And Green Lane Masjid. I think they're pretty cool. There's so many Muslim YouTubers that I follow, but I'll dab into here, see what's going on. Try to get a perspective over here. You know, see what's going on over there. Right? Chris says, Hamza's Den and Isa Dawa. I don't know who Isa Dawa is. Fascinating, yeah, just see where you belong. You know, and sometimes in your journey, you want to be here, but then you want to be there. So you just float around. You know, dip your toes in. See where you can learn from. Oh, and do you know EA Dawa? I think so. Isn't that the show that people call in and they argue? Something like that. Shug says, I remember the first time I wrote out a will for myself. I was 18 years old. Really helps remind me of the truth of life. Dang, but what assets did you have at 18? Shug says, I like Mom's way to talking in YouTube info. I think we can call it digital grazing. Yeah, digital grazing. Yeah, that's what I do. I try to now, I like really branch out. Like, I got some news of Australia, got some news of Mexico, got some cooking channels, pottery channels, farming channels. And so I have like, even I have some theology channels. I got a Catholic channel I follow. I got there's this weird old Jewish dude. You know, got him. I got a wide range, tons of Islamic, right? But I have a wide range of people who are like, okay, because you need to get. I like to get inspired. I like to feel like what's going on. What are we talking about? What's going on in the spiritual community? What's going on in the political realm? What's going on in the culinary arts world? You know, I like in the truther realms. I like to see what's going on. So always have a good grazing. You know, you can get inspired spiritually by different people sometimes. Asiya says, Assalamu alaikum, my dear sister. Wa alaikum assalam. Shuk says, when I was 18, I had a apartment that I owned, a car for parts. Oh, snap. That's pretty cool. Wow. An 18-year-old already had your own apartment. That's pretty good. I rented a room at 18. I didn't have my own apartment. I rented rooms in California. You know, it was not fun. It was not fun. It's a rough life. Sidra says that's very rare these days. That people own their own apartment. Yeah, inflation, man. Inflation. But whole snap sugar though, someone's gonna be envious of you for having that at 18. Just kidding. Chris says, East 87, I saw you on Dawa over Dunya. What was that, like a show topic? Dawa over Dunya. Giving Dawa over the Dunya. Dunya. Don't channel that Dunya, man. But, oh, and you know what's interesting? Speaking of envy, let's see. No Zoomer generation dependent on their parents, especially boys. The Zoomers, yeah. Ain't the Zoomers like 15-year-olds? I see that word Zoomer. And they always have frog logos. Frog logos. They call them Zoomers. Nick Fuentes fans, they call themselves Zoomers. They're very young. Yeah, they're gonna struggle. People who are very young. You know. Asya says, I want to give you some beautiful niqabs. My P.O. box is only for small envelopes. So, sorry, sis. It's not possible. I don't know what the post office does if you send something too big. I don't know. The Chinese lady in the post office is gonna get mad at me if I have packages sitting there. She says Kyrgyzstan, yes, the frog logo. They always say free Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, I don't know what Kyrgyzstan is. I don't know what it is. They always say kick, and I'm like, what are you talking about? They have some of the funniest memes, but they can be very mean. I once, like back in the day, I made 2 videos against Nick Fuentes. Ooh, the trolling was brutal. The frogs, they are mean. Oh my gosh. Oh, they're brutal. And they don't stop. The Zoomers. You know? Asya says, I think niqab is beautiful on you. I can wrap each individually and send one at a time. I received hijabs in my P.O. box. But it's okay if not. I can ask my post office lady, and you can get back to me on that, sis. Because I don't want to make her mad at me because you have to have a big one. She's gonna yell at me and be like, you send things to your post office. You can't do that. I'm like, oh, sorry. You know, I don't want her to get mad at me. I care about what the post office lady think. She says, Kyrgyzstan goes back to the 4chan and bulletin board days. Those rooms are rugged while Wild West stuff. Some of them are from Stormfront. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what 4chan is. They say that 4chan is a place where you post things and then it goes away. I don't know. I don't know. They're pretty mean. I try to stay away from them. They make some funny memes, and I follow a lot of like right-wing conservative Christians on social media, so I see the frog stuff. But, you know, I don't follow them intentionally because they're part of the frog things. I just follow them for the memes and their comments on foreign policy and tax rates. Gofrain says, unfortunately, I have to start work. Please keep me in your prayers. I'm tired with 2 jobs, an unfinished thesis, and challenging mom. Health conditions. Always glad to be here. So we'll help you have a great day at work. You always catch my streams when you're on your way to work. I hope you have a great day, sis, and I'm always glad to see you on the channel. Shug says 4chan and 8chan are the places where a lot of cutting-edge internet stuff goes down. You meet people, share ideas, memes, files, and more. Yeah, it sounds like a very interesting place to be. I'm just not cool enough. I'm just not tech-savvy enough. You know, I'm like, Pinterest, Instagram, you know, stuff like that. Zanak says, you make me love reading books, especially the Quran. You're amazing. Please keep reading books because you are an inspirational person. Thanks, yeah. Oh, don't worry, we'll get back on the book stuff. I've been on a very interesting journey recently, thinking about some pretty deep topics, and so I've been on that. But don't think I'm gonna stop reading books, inshallah. I'm still doing that. I read a lot of books off camera, and then when I want to record videos for the channel, I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this today because it's in my brain. Whenever I make a video about a topic other than one of the books, it's because it's something I've been thinking about and I need to get it out so that I can bounce ideas off other people. You know? It's interesting. But, yeah. And so, if any of you, to continue on, if any of you are dealing with envy, just make sure you help it not to get out of control. Because it can pop up. It can pop up and you have to make sure that it doesn't just fester in there, which can be quite difficult. Extremely difficult. I know that some people would say stuff to others like, oh, so-and-so has more followers or something, but what freed me of feeling any type of envy towards that is knowing how many are bots and how people can buy likes, buy followers. I mean, I'm completely shadow banned on YouTube, so it's like you're almost like in a digital gallows, they call it. So what are you gonna do? It's controlled, you know? There's if I log out of YouTube and I just go on the YouTube homepage and see the videos YouTube puts on the homepage, that explains it all. I hope one day that you can get an Elon Musk figure who kind of turned the algorithm of Twitter around. I wish that they could sell YouTube to somebody who wanted to be more of a just a better algorithm. Because sometimes I get fed videos where I'm like, this is not even my style. And so many times I subscribe to people, I turn on the dumbbell, and then I watch their videos, I don't get notifications, I don't get anything, and I have to actually go find them. And I'm like, what's happening? It pisses me off. I'll subscribe to people and I don't get any of their freaking videos in my feed. You know? So it's like you can tell that YouTube's up to something. And so when I see analytics, I don't trust it. I just don't trust it. Doesn't make sense to me at all. And there are people who, what they do is they flip YouTube channels. So they get big channels and then they sell it. And then they change everything, the name and whatnot. And I didn't know there was a whole business, because I'll see a channel that has like 12 videos and like 100,000 subscribers. And you're like, how is that possible? Right? But what they do is they'll put a video, delete it, they run up the views, and they do all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm not trying to do all that shady stuff just to get people to watch. If people show up, they show up. If they don't, they don't. But I understand that envy in the YouTube realm is pretty intense. Pretty intense. Shug says before, envy was about tangibles like necessity or amenities. Now it's about intangibles, i.e. likes, clicks, views. How do you even quantify that? That is such a good point. You just nailed it on the head. That is perfect way to say it. Intangible versus tangible. Perfect for this topic. That it's even more fleeting because we can't even touch the likes and the followers. And it's like it's a digital void, you know? Pretty intense. So intense to think about it that way. Chris says, Milan, when did you convert? So I think it's going to be it's going to be a 3-year anniversary coming up here pretty soon. So I'm a 2-year, studied for a year, been a convert for 2 years. And then so my 3rd year coming up. So I'm still a newbie. You know, I'm still learning. But I've learned quite a lot, I can tell you that. But there's just so much wonderful knowledge to read about Islam. It's just refreshing. I got so many books ready, just waiting for me to open them up. I got my beautiful... I want to read all the translations of the Quran. I'm on my 4th one. I'm almost done of the Quran. And then I want to read as many tafsir series as I can. I want to read all the hadiths of Tirmidhi and Bukhari. And I mean, I've read thousands of hadiths. It's just so wonderful. The camp says, Milan, have you ever been to jail? No, but I've been to juvenile hall. When I was younger, before I turned 18, I went to juvenile hall, which is like a youth jail. And when I was up to get out, I asked to stay in. I asked to stay in the jail because I didn't want to go back home because I was so miserable. I preferred to be locked up than to go back home to a broken home where I was deeply lonely. Shug says, your analytical mind and critical reasoning protected you from a lot of pitfalls. Praise be to Allah. Thank you, Shug. Very kind words, and you're right. Chris said, what made you convert, if okay to ask? That's kind of a long one, but I have a lot of videos in my vlog series, my vlog playlist 1. Feel free to go back and check those out, where I've done podcasts. So just go on my vlog. I have a vlog playlist 1 and 2. You can scroll through there and see a lot of podcasts and videos that I did. But that would be kind of long to talk about tonight. Zenek says, I did hear you before that you don't like to make reaction about Islamic videos on YouTube, but I think it would be a good idea to make reaction because you can make us learn with you. I do reaction videos, but with books, if you think about it. I read Islamic books and then react. But I don't have the technology to see a video and then just react. The reason also further is you're going to get copyright strikes. I don't want copyright strikes. With books, you email the publisher. They give you an email back. They give you permission. Free use, or what do they call that? I don't know. Free use, whatever. But for videos, people get copyright strike all the time. What's your biggest fear in life? To live without my children. To live without my little children, I would say. If you ask me in 2 years from now, it might be something different. But I love my children, and a life without my children would not be worth living. The camp says, is it true that inmates use chess pieces and melt them to use them for tattoos? I never saw anybody do tats, but you can use pen ink or India ink. That's usually what people will tat others with. Back in the days, they had different ways of doing old-fashioned tattoo guns, but I don't know what the inmates have now, because they're going to confiscate stuff. Chess pieces seem like a very dangerous one, because they put those into shanks and shivs. I don't know. I never played chess in juvenile hall. We did outdoor exercises. You weren't allowed stuff like too many pieces of plastic, you know. What says, would you leave your husband and marry Habib? Habib wouldn't want to be there for the children, right? He'd always be away, be quite lonely. You wouldn't even get to enjoy him. Habib is one of the most handsome, strongest guys who's a Muslim athlete, but if you think about how lonely his wife must be, then you're not winning. He's rich, but he's just never around. He's always wrestling, and he's not going to be changing diapers or cuddling. You know, it'd be kind of lonely, I think. I think it would be very lonely to be married to Habib. Chris says, one person who I will never follow is No Law Paul. Who's No Law Paul? Are you talking about Paul the Apostle in Christianity? Hello, Cam says, LOL. Must says, typical motherly answer, I guess. Yeah. Cam, they use chess pieces and melt the black pieces for tattoos. That's weird. The Cam says that's why he retired. Oh, yeah, that's true. But he's doing training camps, ain't he? I'm sure he's making money doing private tutoring or something. Shug says the life of an athlete trainer is very solitary. That's so true. Mike says, yeah, but he conquers the world and he is always working. It's what a man should be doing. I mean, yeah, but, you know. Chris says, that Paul. Okay, so you're talking about Paul from the Bible? The Apostle Paul? So you're saying that you don't like the Apostle Paul in the Bible? There's a lot of people named Paul on YouTube, so you always got to be, like, there's a lot, that's a very common name, so you have to be very specific with what you mean. What don't you like about Paul? Is it because he changed some of the laws, you think? Some people thought he was a prophet. There's a lot of people who've made comments about that figure in Christianity. The little one woke up? No, that's just my husband coming home from work. Sidrat says, I haven't seen any Christians fully following the law except maybe Sabbath. Yeah, what happened to Christians today is they all deny the Old Testament, they're embarrassed by it, and the 501c3, government-run churches control a lot of what those people learn. And so you got to go to the Amish and the Mennonites and stuff like that, and the Orthodox to really get at it. Modern Christians have allowed too many pagans into their faith, and secret Masons, in my personal opinion. Chris says, yeah, Paul from the Bible, he's a scammer. He misquotes the Old Testament and changes the context. Interesting. I'm not an expert yet on the Bible, but I want to become one. So I have no refutations for that yet, because that's above my level. But as a theology student, I definitely love learning about that, but you'd have to ask somebody who knows more about Paul and his journey than me, because I'm not an expert on Paul. I'm still learning about the Old Testament, which is very cool in my opinion. Zan Clooney says, you have nothing to lose if you make reaction about videos, just try it. That's copying everybody else. It's a fast way to get subs, but it's just not my niche. I like books and other things, you know. I don't like using other people's media content. That's just copying everyone else, you know. Like Bobby's Perspective, those types, they're the ones who take other people's videos and make reaction, but it's just not my style, fam. Mutt says Hamza's Den is an expert in the Bible. I know you don't like him though. He ain't no expert in the Bible. He didn't even know who St. Thomas Aquinas was. He ain't no expert. He just argues with Christians, and I don't consider him an authority on Christianity. If you didn't know not knowing who St. Thomas Aquinas is like not knowing who Sahih Bukhari is. You see what I'm saying? Don't get me started. Sidra says, all sects of Christianity has some level of paganism. I mean, a man died as a sacrifice, which the Old Testament is against. Oh, snap. Oh, snap. Chris says, watch Issa Dawa. He will prove his scams. Oh, wait a minute. Are you saying that Issa Dawa, a Muslim, is gonna make videos about Paul? What I think you should do is, what I would do is go to a Christian themselves and ask them about Paul, and then get a Muslim's perspective, because some Muslims, they just make things up for views, you know. Matt says, come on, Milan. No, you come on. You. He's not an expert on the Bible. On the Bible. It's true though, you gotta admit, I'm right about that. If a guy says, Moy says, and by the way, he knows him, he was just trolling you. He says that now, because it's easy to say that now, because he knows deep down I was right, so he's gonna say, oh, well, I know, I was just trolling her. I knew all the time. No, he didn't. He didn't know. Chris says, yeah, he made videos about Paul. Sidra says, Hamza is definitely not an expert. I think Isjathartrini and Zakir Hussein are more knowledgeable. When it says, nah, bro. No, you not, bro. You can like Hamza, but I'm just saying, when we had that discussion, and he was arguing with me about Aquinas, you gotta understand, I'm really into theology. If a Christian didn't know who Sahih Muslim was, didn't know Sahih Bukhari, didn't know these terms, didn't know the names of the 4 caliphs, and you know, you would be like, you ain't at that level yet. And you had to acknowledge that. So he didn't know who that was. And he mocked Aquinas' intelligence, which showed me, nah, you ain't really about that, you know. Sidra says, were you a Christian at the time when you debated him? I am missing context. No, I was a Muslim at the time I debated him. I'm just I respect scholars, and he doesn't. He did the very clever marketing move, was only praise Muslims, trash Christians, get the Muslims to go hoorah, hoorah. I did the more honest thing, in my opinion, which was, if someone is a good scholar, even though they are of another religion, I'm gonna give them respect because of their scholarly studies. You see what I'm saying? Itza says, Hamza openly admits that he's never actually read the Bible. He said he stopped at Genesis. For real? That's not good, man. That's not good. I got a study Bible that I'm going to start, a McAfee study Bible that I'm going to read after the Jehovah's Witness versions of the Bible. Because I want to read all the translations of the Bible, read all the translations of the Quran, and when I can afford it, get back to those theology degree lessons. You know? Sidra says he hasn't read the Old Testament though. So then he can't even be an authority then. That's what I don't like. I don't like when certain Muslim content creators trash Christianity, but they don't actually study it, and then their fans get mad at me and call me all these like hypocrite or something because I study other religions before speaking about them, right? When it says, as a Muslim, I don't need the Bible. That is true. But if you're going to be a theology student, you have to study before speaking. That's what I'm saying. You see, the average Muslim doesn't have to go to the Bible. But us scholars, people who want to be scholars, we have to know what we're talking about first. You know, that's what I'm saying. And Hamza ain't doing that. And I have to call that out. Right? Mud says, yeah, true, I guess. Chris says, yeah, I can see your point. Yeah, that was my whole point with him. That's why I got so angry, but people didn't understand what I meant. Because for me, I don't criticize something before I fully understand it. And as you see, even during the stream, someone will ask me about Paul. What do I say? I said, oh, I'm not on that level yet. I have no problem telling people what level I'm on. What I do have a problem with is people who pretend to be on a higher level than what they are because they have ego and they're embarrassed and they want money and they want super chats, they want likes, they want follows. It's a lot of imagery, a lot of marketing in the YouTube scene. And me, I don't need that. You know? Your words speak for themselves. Cry over spilled milk. Well, it says he is doing to an extent though. Not formally though, because you know, to study theology is a long road. You know, he has his own genre, right? His genre is different than mine. His goals is different than mine, right? Mud says, I hear your husband with the dishes. He is enjoying his meal, mashallah. Yeah, I made some food. I posted a video. You saw the food that I made today. He's eating that right now. You can hear it. Oh, the microphone on this phone must be good. Yeah, his food is ready. He came home, he got some food. That's how you do it. You know? It was a pretty good meal that I made. I need to buy more soy sauce though. I got some good Thai lemongrass from the market, which was pretty cool. I'm trying to incorporate learning more lemongrass recipes along with fresh fennel, because there's a lot of fresh fennel here that grows. Mike says, your food always looks good. What's new? Yeah, follow me on Instagram. I post my recipes on there. Salad season's coming up, so I'll do more salad recipes soon. But, yeah, I'm always cooking up. Chris says, there are some things I like about Christianity, but some of his followers got mad at me. Oh, the Hamza's followers? Maybe his followers have gotten better, but they troll pretty hard. You know, some of them they only like to learn about Islam, and once you start talking nice about a Christian, they get real mad. And I think that's a little bit immature. Right? But, yeah, it's quite strange. But alright, fam. We've been doing a live stream for about an hour and 13 minutes. And I'm going to let my husband be able to relax and be on his computer and let him have his space and cool off from work. But I hope you enjoyed this live stream about, you know, our discussion on envy and jealousy and philosophizing on that subject. Thanks for everybody who tuned in, and hopefully you found it beneficial. If you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. Hope to see you there. Also supports the channel in case you just want to tip and dip out, but I also post longer form things on there if you like reading, and some memes and fun stuff and hadiths and whatnot. So consider joining. Take care, everyone. Good night.